Hello and welcome on Primetime Watchmaking in the News, and we have quite a dense edition to share with you as there were plenty of new products, business and gossipy things happening recently, Baselworld SIHH saga update, serious auctions to come, records to be broken, GPHG prognostic, as well as a rich November agenda to announce. So hang in there and let's start with the super quick wrist check, as I am wearing one of my favorite watch, an old school Bovet chrono from the 50s. It's my second one in this theme and I do wear it a lot. Simple and nice, works well. Well, what do you want more? Well, I do have a few ideas, but for today this will do just fine. So before talking about all this, just wanted to mention that we've added a few books in our online boutique, books on some iconic brands and watches, but also some more technical ones with, for instance, this book used in old Swiss watchmaking school called The Theory of Watchmaking, and it's available in English, French, German, Italian and Spanish. A fine book. Okay, let's talk watches, and I have to start with Lange Söhne, who shocked the watch world with their first ever steel sports watch, something they said they would never do, but there you go, and business is business, as the German brand introduced the Odysseus, 40.5mm in width, 11.1 in height, totally new timepiece, new movement, and actually this will be a completely new line of products additional to the current brand's offering of 5 collections. Lange 1 Saxonia, 1815, Richard Lange, Zeitwerk, and now the Odysseus. So Lange insisted on the sport dimension of this new timepiece, and I think that the term sportier would fit a bit more, as they went pretty conservative and could have gone a little bit more wild to prove their point. For instance, for me, one of the only sporty features is this red number 60 found at 12 o'clock, and it's so tiny. Okay, you have a screw down crown and the watch is water resistant to 120 meters, but that's about it. Okay, the dial is nice, very nice actually, but again I would say more elegant than sporty, and seriously, is a big date and especially a big day indicator a sporty attribute? Well, not really in my opinion, and this is really what stands out when you look at it. Okay, I get that it respects some design codes of the brand, kind of a Zeitwerkish type of feeling, but is this really necessary? I doubt it. And of course, what to say about the integrated Jubilee-like bracelet? Well, this one for sure got people dubious, to say the least, and personally I'm no big fan, though I admit that it is quite comfortable, and the clasp has a nice feature which allows you to easily adjust the size by a few millimeters, up to 7 actually, something seriously quite convenient, for instance, when you're flying and your wrist just gets a bit swollen after your 8th gin and tonic. Anyhow, and contrary to Audemars Piguet, who went all in when they introduced the code 1159, really can't get over this name, well, when AP introduced early this year this new collection, they came with nothing less than 13 references, from a 3-hander, the one that got so much love from everyone, all the way to the Super Sonnerie minute repeater version. Well, in this case, Lange was much more prudent, not even showing a simple color dial variation, but as they did mention that it will be a new collection, so we can definitely expect other versions coming in the near future, other complications and so forth, and based on initial feedback received, well, they will be able to make the small and needed adjustments to really fit this sport dimension, if that was really the goal. So to summarize things, the watch has potential, the case is pretty nice, again more classic than sporty, the corrector buttons for the day and dates are precise when activated, this German luxury car closing door feeling, the movement beating at 4 Hz is nice, was constructed in a way to allow the addition of modules, is of course automatic and holds 50 hours of power reserve. It's priced a bit short of 30,000 Swiss francs / dollars / euros. And I'm not saying that Lange need to go the full offshore route, but I hope you get my point. And personally, I would like just to see it on a NATO strap. And even if they previously said that they will never ever do those kind of things, well, I guess almost every brand have to have a steel sporty watch in their portfolio. I mean, these are simply so hot today. So it's a rational business decision to do so. So bravo for trying, and an even bigger bravo when they will get it right. And regarding this never ever attitude, well, I think brands believe that people will easily forget what has been said before, a bit like in politics. Think of Roger Dubuis, which claimed for years and years that all their watches will be Geneva Hallmark certified. It was a distinct brand marker, and recently, well, they kind of ditched that principle. Well, at least I doubt that we will see a quartz Blancpain anytime soon, but now who knows, right? Okay, next big launch, or let's say big budget spent on that launch, and I will talk about the new Chopard Alpine Eagle. Alpine Eagle, sorry about that, which is also pursuing the grail of the steel sport watch opportunity. Okay, Chopard is enjoying since many years a solid success with the Mille Miglia, a sport collection for sure, but this one is positioned as an entry product, if I can say so. So with the Alpine Eagle, we can clearly feel that they are looking to narrow the gap in terms of price point between their very nice high-end LUC pieces and this Mille Miglia, and be a bit opportunistic, but in these troubled times for watchmaking, nothing wrong with trying. So in the last edition of PRIMETIME, I had a good time and laugh talking about the new Bell & Ross BR05 collection with this mix of so many existing icons. And then when I saw this new Chopard, I said, oh no, please, not again. Well, screws on the bezels, integrated bracelet and the likes, but actually this Chopard mimics slightly a 1980s collection of the brand called at the time the St. Moritz, which had these features. So honor is safe, more or less, and this new watch comes in two sizes, a 41 and a 36 millimeter version, price starting around 10,000 Swiss francs, but up to 45,000 for a solid gold and diamond version. It holds an in-house automatic movement, beating at 4 Hz with 42 hours of power reserve. It's COSC certified. The steel used is called Lucent Steel and is more scratch resistant than regular steel. And for the Eco Touch, well, this steel is made of recycled steel and Greta will be delighted. And for the marketing story, well, the name of this new collection comes from the iris of eagles, which is being transposed on the dial with this look-alike effect. So do you follow me on this one? Are you mesmerized by the story? Well, I hope so. But something seriously interesting about this watch is the proposed sizes, especially coming with this 36 millimeter version, clearly demonstrating that small has become beautiful again. Okay, enough of these sport watches, and let's talk about more bizarre time-telling objects, and we'll start with HYT, which introduced a totally new proprietary movement coming in the H5. So this timepiece uses the convincing shape of the H0, but now has its own movement, which took a bit more than 3 years to develop, with the help of master genius watchmaker Eric Coudray and a team of Tech Group, a name you're about to hear a few times by year's end on this channel, just a little teasing here. But coming back on this new timepiece, well, the main development particularly resides in a new cam system, which clearly improves certain reliability issues when it comes to the precise synchronization of the complex hour fluidic system found in the capillary with the more traditional mechanical minute indicator found at 12 o'clock. So HYT introduced two variants, one with black fluid and green numerals on the circumference of the case, and the opposite version, green fluid, black numerals. So each is limited to 25 pieces and price is set at 55,000 Swiss francs. Okay, next one with Romain Jérôme, which continues with its Marvel character-inspired watches, and now coming with a rather original model called the Arrow Spider-Man Tourbillon. As its name implies, well, this watch features a tourbillon, a pretty large central one, the cage reminding us of a spider web, and is placed above the main barrel, also large, enabling a power reserve of 150 hours, almost 6 days. And the peripheral time indication display is quite original, with a planetary gear system for the hour and minute, the minute one overlapping the hour indication 12 times per cycle. So the 45mm case combines black carbon and red fiberglass with a mate aspect. And one cool feature is how you wind this watch since it has no apparent crown. So on the case backside you have a hoop that you pull up and you just simply turn it in one direction, and to set the time, well, you have an extra little button hidden on the case at 6 o'clock between the lugs, and by pressing on it and by turning the hoop you can adjust the time in both directions. Okay, quite a playful timepiece, costing nevertheless 92,000 Swiss francs. And the last product launch I will quickly come back on is this really crazy cold clock that I had the pleasure to review. And I just wanted to say that the first time I saw this thing, I immediately said to myself, okay, well, this will work, and actually it did. It was launched during the SIHH in Mexico, and this new company, the Unnamed Society, sold them like hotcakes, and I'm not totally surprised. And we will soon see some more really crazy version, as the goal is to create only unique pieces, and I let you imagine what this can lead to. Kind of the El Chapo version, if you see what I mean. Okay, let's now talk business news, and there were a few interesting stories worth coming back on. As you can imagine, the current situation in Hong Kong is playing pretty hard on all watch brands. And as a reminder, Hong Kong represents 20% of Swiss exports. Doesn't mean that all watches remain in Hong Kong, but nevertheless, this is now starting to seriously hurt, as I've heard from various sources that some brands have simply not sold a single watch since many weeks. And I'm not talking small brands, I'm talking big brands. So some of this market necessarily shifted to other places, but it will for sure have serious consequences on the overall performance of the industry by year's end. And some brands are already taking this very seriously, as there are many rumors, and in some cases actually more than simple rumors, about some important layoffs that will either occur or have discreetly started, jobs position left vacant, etc. So as mentioned already a few times on this channel today, well, you have clear winners. I mean, this club of 10 brands or so that are enjoying a stronger and stronger positions mainly attained by the power and efficiency of their marketing. Then on the other side of the spectrum, well, you have these niche brands that we particularly like here on the Watches TV, brands producing small numbers, but of course of higher horological substance, where the notion of craft and art is at the center of what they do and who they are. And then in the middle, well, you have a kind of a huge ecosystem that will simply suffer more and more. And this has naturally already started many years ago, but no one really wanted to see the truth. So I don't want to sound too alarmist, and I've been saying this for a long time, but nothing wrong with overall production going down. It's just there is a kind of a big problem, as most of these brands in this middle sector belong to groups and or are publicly traded companies where the business model only values eternal growth and higher yield. Something today, I believe, is unachievable with the dynamic of the watch market. Adapting to these changing rules is a must, and think of this, for instance. A few days ago, I read a very interesting market analysis which suggests that 50% of the entire Swatch Group turnover is generated solely on the Chinese market, whether purchased there in mainland China or abroad by Chinese tourists. Well, a small Chinese market contraction will have massive consequences for the Swatch Group, and it also means that Chinese consumers are the only ones purchasing some category of products that not that many people buy elsewhere. So if their tastes change, and there is no reason why they shouldn't, well, I let you imagine the backlash that this could trigger. But on this good note, I naturally still and totally believe in the power of mechanical watchmaking, and there are still so many fantastic stories to uncover together. But we'll indeed focus a bit more on the art side of the spectrum. Okay, next news, and it's been a while since there hasn't been significant updates on the Baselworld, SIHH saga and the evolution of these type of trade fairs, and today we have a few things to share with you. As a quick reminder, both fairs will now happen back to back of each other at the end of April, beginning of May next year. These dates don't really satisfy anyone on the brand side, a bit too late to take orders for the year. So Baselworld has already announced that the 2021 edition will take place at least 3 weeks prior to next year's show. So Baselworld also announced that they managed to convince a few brands to come back inside the fair, such as Maurice Lacroix and De Béthune. And some further announcements are expected soon. But in general, we are hearing good things, I have to say, good ideas, a new will, a new state of mind, and we really hope that it will be for the better of the fair. On the SIHH side, well, the big news is a cosmetic one, but a strategic one nonetheless, since it drops this incomprehensible acronym to many, SIHH, Salon International de la Haute Horlogerie, for a new brand name already used by the organizers in other circumstances, Watches and Wonders. So the first time this was used was a few years ago for the Asian version of the SIHH, which took place in Hong Kong on a biannual rhythm. So the cost for brands to attend was just prohibitive, even for Richemont brands, and the salon was later dropped. But a couple of years ago, well, this name was reused for some kind of a small American spin-off version taking place in Miami in early February. This event was much less formal than the Geneva event. More brands could participate, costs reduced, and visitors were welcome. Sounds like a good recipe, no? Well, there is a massive probability that I will attend next year's venue, Miami, February. Nice people, nice watches. Well, that's a good enough program for me. Anyhow, the SIHH, or should I say the FHH, the Fondation de la Haute Horlogerie, in charge of organizing the SIHH, has now decided to use the same Watches and Wonder wording for the Geneva event. And at the same time, they will try to implicate much more the Geneva watchmaking scene. Whether opening manufacturers during this week, more activation in the various brands boutique in the city, and many more activities in general happening. This is of course a good thing, and actually the FHH had already tried to organize some kind of a watchmaking week in Geneva in the spring of this year, but this didn't go through, too complicated to pull together. But the ambition was there, and now with the ever-growing competition between the two fairs, well, this accelerated the FHH of going forward with this. But there is, of course, a bit more at stake than just a name change, as both fairs would indeed like to build their brands beyond their main events. They would like to replicate small international versions of their shows, and in that respect, Watches and Wonder has a small lead based on what I just mentioned before. But an international version of Baselworld would also make sense. Is there space for both? Well, maybe, as we are not talking about the same brands, and they could alternate venues such as Watches and Wonder in Miami in February and a Baselworld version in September, maintaining therefore some kind of continuum. Okay, well, this might be a bit unlikely, but Baselworld in Los Angeles or elsewhere in the US at other dates, why not? Well, it is highly probable that we are going to see some concrete announcements in the coming months, both showing more openly their ambitions and they really need to become pure allies of the brands and don't see the brands as sole customers paying the check for the organization of the events. Well, personally, I think there is room to do more, and anything that enables to increase visibility and appreciation towards quality watchmaking makes me happy, even when we're talking marketing watchmaking. And last consideration about this evolution, these shows, is how the Swatch Group will react to all this, since they prefer to do their own thing, having pulled out of Baselworld. Big question there. Okay, next news, and there will be plenty of important auctions in Geneva in the coming days. The most fun one will of course be Only Watch, hosted by Christie's, and this one will occur on Saturday the 9th of November, and I really can't wait to live the ambiance of this special sale and of course witness the stratospheric price which will undoubtedly be reached by the unique Patek Steel Grandmaster chime. But how high? Well, still a few days and we will know. We'll come back on this especially for you, count on us. But there are other auctions, and one lot that particularly interests me, and this to kind of benchmark and demonstrate the hotness of brands, as Christie's is auctioning a tonneau-shaped minute repeater Patek Philippe wristwatch from the 1920s, which belonged to famous US banker Henry Graves Jr., the man who commissioned Patek for the world's most complicated timepiece at the time, a pocket watch sold in 2014 here in Geneva for around 24 million US dollars. That's still the ultimate price record, and I had the immense privilege of holding in my hands this watch. Yes, these hands have been pretty spoiled over time. And by the way, we use this name Henry Graves on our Patreon campaign for the highest level tier of persons supporting us, and I must say, and I am extremely proud, that we indeed do have a Henry Graves patron. Hallelujah to you, and more are welcome, of course. Anyhow, let's go back to the subject of the moment and the point I wanted to make. So this special timepiece holds a movement from 1895, meaning that it wasn't meant for a wristwatch, but nevertheless used as such here and delivered to this illustrious client in 1928. Estimates are set between 3 to 5 million Swiss francs. So the interesting thing is that a few months ago, we had seen a more spectacular piece, a bit similar, also tonneau-shaped, fully commissioned by a client with calendar function from the early 40s, but from Vacheron Constantin. And this piece was finally sold $750,000 approximately by Philips. So not a bad price, of course, but the price gap between the two is really huge and exemplifies quite rapidly that one brand is seriously hotter than the other. But the good news with this is that you can find some very interesting and quality Vacheron vintage timepieces at some rather decent price point. So I'm not saying that they will massively increase in price anytime soon, but at least there are some opportunities for some for some nice pieces, and I'm not talking necessarily $750,000 needed either. So beside this, well, of course, Sotheby's will host their auction, Philips, Bax and Rousseau too, with naturally some pretty sweet lots. Plus a special sale with double branded timepieces, meaning watches where you will find the name of the retailer added on the dial or elsewhere on them. But something additional that will take place this time is that Watchbox, the second-hand reseller, will try to benefit from all this auction action by placing a pop-up store for a few days just in the middle of all these events. Opportunistic, but clever, I must say. So another big event that will take place soon is the GPHG ceremony held on the 7th of November here in Geneva. The ceremony that likes to think of itself as the Oscars of watchmaking, but with the little flaws we already mentioned a few times here on this channel. So the ceremony will honor 14 different watches in as many categories, and then we will know which one will be judged best of the best of 2019 with the Aiguille d'Or award. Personally, I wouldn't be too surprised if that top prize went to Vacheron Constantin with its traditional twin beat introduced during this year at the SIHH, a watch with two regulating organs enabling the wearer to choose which one to be used, a 5 Hz one for daily usage, but then a 1.2 Hz one if you want to leave your timepiece in your drawer, and providing a significant improvement of the power reserve going up to 65 days in that mode. So something obviously very handy as this timepiece holds a perpetual calendar and you don't want to reset this all the time. So we'll see in a few days who won what, and if my gut feeling is correct. In terms of other events, I would like to mention two. Well, the first one, I can't wait to go there, is the Dubai Watch Week that will take place between the 20th and 24th of November at the DIFC. And there will be many exhibitions, panel talks, masterclasses, even product launches that will occur over these 4 days. But for me, the most fun part is all the nice and informal talks we can have with all the fantastic guests and public present there. A moment of enjoyable lightness. I mean, meaning people that are free to talk their minds on serious matters, such as the evolution and future of the industry, as grave as that. Well, it's always a very inspiring moment that I'm lucky to attend. I just love the mix of action, and I seriously believe that this event really contributed in some kind of necessary general awareness problem with watchmaking education, and this I can only salute, something which I think is precisely being copied a bit now by the two main fairs of SIHH / Watches and Wonder and Baselworld. Well, looking forward to meeting friends there and bring you back some juicy info. The second noteworthy event is the second edition of the Shanghai Watch Festival, which will take place at the end of the month, and hopefully I will also have the opportunity to attend, not sure yet. I mean, always interesting to meet new people and watch friends around the world. And I didn't receive too many info regarding this year's event, but apparently it will be much larger than the first edition, and I had heard only positive things regarding this first one. And we're finally reaching the end of PRIMETIME. I just wanted to mention that in October I attended the Eurochromes Festival in Poland. I was even a judge in the jury, and this was a really cool experience. Saw some really interesting small brands, cool products, cool stories, and really felt the passion driving everyone there. And this is what I prefer, so fresh and inspiring enthusiasm, and has given me some ideas for some additional video reports. And then I went to Singapore for the very first time and attended Jewelux. This was also a fantastic experience, met some great people again, and we have some nice stories that we will share with you shortly in a dedicated video report. But just wanted to share with you just now a crazy timepiece viewed there in the beautiful Hourglass boutique. Well, this is a special Zenith pilot watch. Okay, so far nothing too special, but then listen to this. 60mm in width, full sapphire case, limited to 5, and I asked myself, why? Well, I didn't find any answer to this fundamental question, and if you have any idea, don't hesitate to share your thoughts. Just a crazy piece. Okay, I guess this is it for this month's edition of PRIMETIME. I warned you it will be quite long, but next edition might not be in early December, but a bit later with some kind of yearly wrap-up. Well, we'll get back to you on this. All the very best. Stay tuned for some serious watchmaking videos in the coming days and weeks. Thanks for watching. A huge thanks to our patrons. Come and check our online boutique with our new stuff. And viva watchmaking!